This episode covers day 78 and days 84 through 90 of my Grand Detour. My experience visiting Glacier National Park and riding the Going to the Sun Road. Glacier is one of the crown jewels of the U.S. National Park System, and near the top of any list of American motorcycling roads. If it's not on your list, it should be. My meanderings over these 5 days of riding took me 880 miles, and I ended up going to Glacier twice. The first time through, the weather wasn't particularly cooperative, and I had to ride it mostly in the rain. But 10 days later, I got to do it again, under nearly perfect conditions. And this is the story of both. Welcome back to My Grand Detour, a 112-day, 18,000-mile solo motorcycle trip across the US and Canada. It was the trip of a lifetime, not just for the roads and the views, but for the people and the places I found along the way. Part 1. Day 78. My first attempt. Today was a big milestone on the trip. I had been looking forward to Glacier National Park and riding the Going to the Sun Road for months. Today was the day. And of course, it wasn't the perfect day. First, you may have noticed there's a small crack in my video camera lens in the lower right-hand corner. I've been trying to find a replacement, but no luck. It's a small crack, but I'll just have to live with it for a while. Second, it was drizzling, on and off, and the forecast called for more rain, all day. And third, there were no hotel rooms available where I could just wait out the weather for a day or two. So I decided to just go for it and hope for the best. Worst case, I'd turn around, cross back into Canada, and stay in Waterton Lakes again. They did have rooms. So first things first, let's cross the border and back into the US. From Waterton Lakes Park, it's a quick 30 miles to the border. And when I got there, the only vehicle that was ahead of me had already pulled out. So border crossing, done. Then I had another 30 miles to get to the park itself. With just a couple miles to go, the drizzle turned into steady rain. And right outside the park, I filled up with gas. I had some coffee, and I waited a little while for the rain to let up. I chatted with some folks. Great day for a ride, huh? Well, I'm gonna go to the visitor center and see what the rangers have to say. I'm hoping it lets up. After less than a mile, I was at the visitor center. And inside, I met a bicyclist who was riding all the way from San Francisco to Portsmouth, New Hampshire. He had just come down off the Going to the Sun Road and suggested, "You won't see anything today. Wait for another time." So I got my passport stamped and I checked in with the ranger to see if they had any weather information. And the ranger's advice was, look, if you've got good rain gear, just go for it. The weather changes so quickly on the pass that whatever forecast I have now will be completely useless in about 10 minutes. The 17-mile climb to Logan Pass was damp and eerie, the peaks wrapped in mist. And at the visitor center on the Continental Divide, I got another stamp in my park passport, I grabbed a few photos, and started west. And that's when I noticed the big Logan Pass sign that marked the pass and the Continental Divide. The road was too narrow and busy to turn around, so I missed that photo op and just kept going. For a few moments, the sun broke through. I pulled over, I soaked in the light, and I snapped some pictures. But just as quickly, the clouds closed back in. And as I rode along the weeping wall, waterfalls spilled across the road, vanishing into the foggy drop-offs below. After another 33 miles, I reached Lake McDonald, and I took my victory photo. I had crossed the Going to the Sun Road, and it was memorable, and in a way, it was beautiful. But it wasn't the visit to Glacier that I had dreamed of. At the Apgar Visitor Center on the west side, I got my third passport stamp and relaxed for a while. I called Donette and told her about my day and that it wasn't raining at the moment. I was going to head out of the park and over to my hotel in Kalispell. I had about 45 minutes to get to my hotel, and about 40 of those minutes were spent in a torrential downpour. Fortunately, my gear was good and kept me warm and dry, but it's always unpleasant dealing with the rain from above, the spray from the cars, and the impatient drivers who don't realize how challenging it can be riding a motorcycle in the rain. As I pulled into Kalispell, I saw a Best Buy, and they had the camera I was looking for, so I bought it, and I shipped the broken one back in for warranty service the next morning. I checked into my hotel, I hung my rain gear to dry, and I went for dinner. I was pretty exhausted. Part 2, days 84 through 89. Mission accomplished. From Kalispell, I rode along Flathead Lake, through Missoula, and to another amazing ride, Logan Pass, which started a week-long dip into Idaho. It was great, and that will be the subject of my next video. For now, we fast forward to day 84. I was back in Missoula with brand new tires on the bike. I woke up feeling a little off, and I wanted to make sure it wasn't COVID. So I went to the pharmacy, and I got a test, and I took it in the pharmacy parking lot. It was positive. I spent 3 nights at the hotel over July 4th, fighting COVID before I felt good enough to make the short ride to Helena, where I planned to spend another 2 days before moving on to Bozeman. The problem was that I couldn't get Glacier off my mind. I kept checking the weather, and this time, the forecast looked like the next several days would be perfect. And I was able to find a last-minute reservation for 2 nights at the Rising Sun Motor Lodge inside the park. And I was feeling much better, and it was only about 200 miles back up to Glacier. I was off. The Going to the Sun Road is only 50 miles long, but it's a legendary ride. Built between 1921 and 1932, it was an engineering marvel of its time. Crews blasted through granite cliffs, carving the Triple Arches Bridge, and navigating the cliffs and drop-offs. Every curve was designed to harmonize with the mountains. It's a challenging place to build a road, and even today, it takes snowplows almost 3 months each spring to clear the pass. The road usually opens late in June and closes again by early October. I left the Rising Sun Motor Lodge, heading east to west. Going east to west has two advantages. First, you can enter the park at the St. Mary's entrance and avoid having to get a timed entry pass. The west side is where most of the services, restaurants, and airports are, so it's busy. And timed entry passes help keep the traffic manageable. Second, and important to this story, is that when you're going west, you ride along the mountain side of the road. As Arlo Guthrie once sang, on one side of the mountain road there was a mountain, and on the other side there was nothing. Just a cliff in the air. And that's the Going to the Sun Road. The comfort of the mountain on one side, and what feels like 1,000-foot cliffs, with very little guardrail, on the other. The 50 miles were totally different this time. The views opened wide, the mountains seemed endless. Snow-covered peaks, lakes, waterfalls, cliffs, and the rushing river. For the first time, I saw Glacier Park as I had imagined it, and it is something to see. I have a Miles in Silence video of this ride, and I'll link to it here and in the description, so you can enjoy the full, unhurried, and uninterrupted ride on your own. I stopped for coffee and a snack at the Lake McDonald Lodge, which looks like it would be an amazing place to stay. I walked around before climbing back on the bike, and now came the real test. Heading back east, along the cliff side of the road. The first part is easy, through the forest and starting to climb. Through the tunnel, and to the first steep, tight switchback. Vehicles longer than 21 feet, wider than 8 feet, and taller than 10 feet are all prohibited on this road. After the switchback, you start along the cliffs. And fortunately, my camera's microphone didn't pick up me talking to myself in my helmet on this stretch. You got this. That was the hardest part. Look how beautiful this is. Okay, that's really far down. Okay, don't look over the edge. Breathe. You can do this. You're doing this. Just keep going. Past the Weeping Wall, over the Triple Arches Bridge, marveling at the rushing waterfalls, the blue skies, the green valleys. I also have a Miles in Silence video going this direction, and I'll link to that one too. By the time I rolled back into Logan Pass, I was grinning like a kid, talking to anyone who would listen. I got my picture taken at the sign I had missed last time, and I took some other pictures to compare with my last ride through. Back at the hotel, I bought a beer at the store and celebrated a truly amazing day. I treated myself to the steak at dinner, and I slept like a baby. Part 3, Day 90. The long ride to Bozeman. In the morning, it was time to leave Glacier and start making my way down toward Red Lodge, Montana, and Yellowstone National Park. I started pretty early and was rewarded by a once-in-a-lifetime experience. I had ridden about 100-200 yards from the hotel when I spotted a grizzly bear, just walking along the side of the road. You'll see them just on the other side of that black Ford coming in the other lane. I couldn't believe my eyes. I watched for a few seconds, but when all the cars stopped, I was feeling a little boxed in, so I weaved around the cars and continued on. I was amazed and excited to see a grizzly. I don't think they were quite as enthusiastic about seeing me. I left Glacier behind and started the very long, straight ride back down through Helena and on to Bozeman. It was pretty much the same route I had come up, so there weren't a bunch of new things to see, and there was also quite a bit of construction along the way. In other words, there's not a whole lot of interesting video to share. In Bozeman, I stayed at the Sapphire Motel, which is a retro-restored motel that was beautifully restored to its 70s glory, and a surprisingly nice place to stay. Across the street, there was a food truck court. I had tacos at Ramirez Mexican Food and some memorable ice cream at Michoacan a Pedir de Boca. I had a nice night in Bozeman. So Glacier didn't give me everything I wanted the first time through, but when I came back, it gave me more than I ever imagined. As Robert Frost wrote, the best way out is always through. And that's the lesson Glacier gave me. Through the rain, through the fear, through again until the road revealed its magic. Thanks for riding along. Next time, I'll share the story of my Idaho loop that includes Logan Pass and an amazing stay in Stanley. Until the next ride, be safe, be curious, and keep meandering.